Hello, potential friends and adventurers. I'm M, and today I ask you, are you optimizing your quests, DMs? Because that's what we are going to talk about today. Welcome to the DM table. Now, what is it to optimize your quests? Why do we do it, and what it is that we do to do it? How? I started to do it kind of recentishly, really. That's not really a word, is it? But I did start to do it quite recently, and well, I didn't pay attention to this earlier because it doesn't come to mind, perhaps naturally, or maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I, was wrong and it came to mind naturally to some of you. Now, you want your campaign to be filled with wonderful quests, but what sort of way do we have to see whether we're having a good campaign with all these wonderful quests? Well, this is the way to see whether we're doing it. One of the major ways, because this is a method to measure whether you're hitting your mark. You see, quests, you want your quests to do several things. You want them to purposefully do what they're doing. You want them to be visible, notable, feelable to the players when they're supposed to be. They're supposed to make an impact, do it sufficiently efficiently, and you want them to leave a mark and then be done, because that's the thing. If you have a quest, for example, that has a huge amount of effort to get to the quest even without any fun, without any sort of interaction, where it's a long slog to get to the quest and then long slog to get away from the quest, then you're missing that part of your goal to sort of transfer into the quest fast. And I did talk about this a bit earlier in an episode, but beyond this, there's the part where if the quest isn't impactful, if you didn't think ahead of time, why would the quest be there for the players? Because whilst the world doesn't revolve around players, you want to sort of put in the spotlight quests that interest them, and not just interest them, but quests that will perhaps have deeper, unexpected impact later down the line. You also want to have quests that either hit the marks of what interest the players have in them, why are they doing them, or you want to sort of see those other quests that show how world goes on even beyond the desires of the players. But those other quests, you sort of want to see how they can either become quick, become trim, and how do they become long when they become interesting, if they become interesting to the players, if players take interest. You sort of want to have quests that are optimized to fit into the campaign so that you don't have large areas of holes. If you ever played a competitive game, you'll know that every click of the mouse, every move of the hand contributes to you saving something like a couple of minutes down the line, maybe even half an hour if you're a complete noob at it. And at that point you realize that, well, your campaign is like a race and you want to fill it out. And if your campaign has lots of holes that are not really filled out, then your campaign is mostly made out of holes, and then, well, it's not as good as it could be. Because whilst it could be good, it could be dramatically better if you optimize your quests. So whilst it feels a bit like work to think of it like that, if you relax and think of it like rising to a new level of DMing, becoming a better narrator and so on, you won't treat it like it's some sort of additional labor that you need to do. So, as such, you want to measure what it is that your quests are not achieving. You want to see which things could have been done in a more combined way. Instead of cutting away things, instead of making quests smaller and simpler, though sometimes that's a good idea if they were not very well shaped in the first place, but mostly you don't want to cut them down and simplify them. What you're doing here is more making sure that each part of a quest does something relevant and that they flow quickly and well, because that's what they're supposed to do. Rather, they are supposed to not outstay their welcome or be too ponderous to access. They just are supposed to glide and be filled out. They are supposed to be there whenever you need them, never there when you don't need them. You want to have a form of the campaign, the kind that players essentially only desire, and their only opposition should be an exciting one, as opposed to in a mechanical manner where there's difficulty in playing. That's why we should optimize quests. So, some points on this. A quest should probably be multi-purpose, because why have something that does only one thing when life is so complex? Have quests that simply have multiple areas of access for multiple party members, which then have multiple outcomes that can have things that are multiply accessible by multiple skills and, abilities and so on and so forth. People can do various things with it. Somebody can negotiate, somebody can cook, somebody can be a fashion designer, and all this comes together to form a ball or a party. So have multi-purpose quests. Also think, how do your individual quests potentially connect to secret manipulations behind the scenes that create further story in the campaign? How do your quests participate in your world, and how will your players get caught in the mix of things once they access those quests? Because sometimes a quest is really good if it doesn't do this, but sometimes the quest is really good if it does do this, and you might not know ahead of time. So do this sort of thing on the fly and after examining your sessions, and you can connect your quests right back into the campaign whenever you want, because things are complex enough that you never know when something is really crucial, key part of something else. You can always sort of find out which is the best story and reconnect it that way. That simply just works by rules of narrative. You don't even have to have preconceived it, you just can see it on the fly and find its connections and then optimize towards running towards more and better story. And so players will get there faster and will enjoy such well-filled out campaign. Now, you also want to see how to get players to participate. You want to have them motivated, you want them to know why they would be accessing these quests in a way, because sometimes you have a part that's secret, sometimes all of it is secret, but you really want to sort of concentrate on players having at least some clue that they would love to, or at least that they are so very curious, so very interested, because how will they otherwise get their motivation to do something? Also, how do they live in the world? You should sort of make sure that quests showcase and incentivize their participation, because how you get interactive players is by teaching players to seek quests that they like out. You want to sort of show that the world has all these things, as long as they sort of say that they one day go off to do such and such, seek such and such, and then they find such and such, because that's what participation is rewarded by. They get everything they essentially wanted and a few surprises more on top, really, because those surprises are what really makes it, because sometimes the opposition that happens is the cooler part, but sometimes everything together just makes it so much more than anybody anticipated, and that's the cooler part. So make sure that they expect a lot, get more, and then get challenged, and then get even more, and make sure that they at least half of the time needed to ask for it. And as usual, don't be shy to ask your players also what they would like outside of the session, outside of the campaign, so that you sort of check what it is that motivates them and how do they respond to motivation, because you want to learn how do they respond to motivation, how do they seek things out. You want to learn their habits of how do they interact with the world, and then you want the world to sort of naturally interact with them, because by that point you've learned how to simulate this. That's why you talk to the players about what quests would they want, so that, you know, this can happen more naturally as the time goes on. And there we have it. Adventure, if you thought this was unique, you could spare me a click or a comment or both, because I would love to see you here next week and hear your opinions, talk to you, and share stuff. So see you then. Bye.